I'm Lisa Hebden, and this is my exhibit, Girlhood, at Batchelor Gallery. And about 10 years ago, I started painting, well, I guess before that, but 10 years ago, I had my first show on this theme of work about girls, adolescent girls, kind of between, I guess, ages 11 and 15. And the work began with things that I kept seeing in magazines. They were girls who I hadn't looked twice at before as a younger woman, and then as I got older, I realized how young these girls really are in these magazines, and some of them are 13, 14. And I started thinking about that, the way that they were portrayed in these magazines, and sometimes it was quite overt. I mean, a pose, and they're selling something, a product that is aimed at people much older than they are. And I did a few paintings that were quite figurative around this. So it was like the whole figure of the girl in this situation. And then after I got that out of my system, they all started to concentrate more on their actual faces and the emotion and the kind of inner tumult that I could express by just painting their faces. And that was the first show that I had here at Batchelor that was titled Girls. And just as a coincidence, I didn't realize it was 10 years almost to the day, it was less one day, that I opened this show again. So I've been actually painting these paintings for 10 years now. This subject matter just doesn't seem to get old for me. And the way that I approach each painting, of course, has changed in the last 10 years, but one thing that I often do is I'll have a rough idea of the kind of size that I want to work in, and I'll potentially have an idea of the specific face. I mean, ish. It always changes. My ideas always change partway through the painting, and then the painting itself completely changes. And sometimes, quite honestly, I'll go in to just change the mouth, and I'll repaint the entire painting. But quite often the way I start with it is I kind of rough it up. I kind of wreck the canvas by throwing paint at it. Because then for me, it's a lot less intimidating than just going into this big white square. But also, as I found over time, I loved the way that the underpainting started to show through, and it started to kind of express the fragility of the girls, because it was almost like you could see like a vein in the forehead, or you could see like the transparency of the skin. So I started to leave it, and I've noticed over time with the work, I leave it more and more, because now I love the immediacy of it, that it's just, like there'll be a whole swath of cheek that I've left blue with this underpainting, and so they're almost transparent now, like the little windows right into them. And with this piece that I'm standing in front of, I did that quite a bit right here, and then her mouth kind of emerges out of it. So I in some cases, I just couldn't bring myself to paint over it. It was just too fresh and interesting, and added this whole other element to it. Some of the paintings in this show are, some of them are a couple of years old, some of them are a little more than a couple of years old, and sometimes I pull out a painting that I haven't looked at in a little while, and sometimes I think, wow, that's a really nice painting. I'm just going to leave it the way it is, and sometimes I just hate it, and I'm just going to fix one thing, and then that's quite often when I repaint the whole thing, because I've learned to actually stop doing that, because the painting is this moment, and then I've changed. Even 3 months later, if I pull it out 3 months later, I've changed enough, and my painting has changed enough in 3 months that I approach it completely differently. So now I'm going to stop doing that. I learned, somebody at the opening said, what happened to that one that was really blue, and she had the really harsh light, and she looked sad? I'm like, well, it's right there. But she's like, no, I don't mean that one. I'm like, no, it really is right there. It's just under a few layers of paint now. Yeah.